続きまして、ホートンワークスファウンダー、チーフアーキテクト、アパッチハドゥープ PLC、サンジェイ・ラディアより講演をいたします。それではよろしくお願いいたします。
Good morning. Thank you all for attending. This is my third time in Japan, and Tokyo, Japan. I really love to be in this place. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about powering your businesses with some of the changes that are occurring in the industries in terms of data science, machine learning, and the connected world is tying everything back together. So the industries are actually going through a digital transformation that is fueled by data. The explosion in data, because everything is connected to everything else, and whether it is devices, your car, people, whether it is wearable devices or your mobile phone. So this is bringing a complete digital transformation of the environment, and you must be seeing these in the industries. In each of your industries in slightly different forms. The first and foremost that I mentioned was, of course, the IoT, Internet of Connected Things. And so what is happening is devices, vehicles are pulling the data in. So we must be able to ingest this data, act on this data in real time, and actually give a complete life cycle management, whether it's security or anything. The second thing that is transforming this thing is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So there is a lot more value in this data if you can actually apply machine learning and artificial intelligence. So for example, if you're in a car, you find that you may get information either to assist you in driving the car or self-driving. And it's much more useful, for example, if when the car shows you that you're doing a merge onto some highway, that by the way, it's a very short merge, because it observed that yesterday, or it found new information that shows that there is some construction going on. So all that information is much more useful if the artificial intelligence and machine learning can bring this additional value to the users. It's either whether you're driving the car or whether you're going and shopping something at a particular shop or at a website. Okay? And the third thing is that everything is becoming really real time. Okay? A thing that is transforming here is two new things. One is that of the cloud, and the other one is that of software as a service. So we spent many years in the past building huge ERP solutions, and what has happened right now is that we are all moving towards the best of breed software as a service. You no longer need to pick an entire step. You can actually get the best of breed services and run your application against these best of breed services. Something like the cloud makes this a lot easier. It makes it much easier for you to set up your data centers, but it also helps you because sometimes, for example, you may be, let's say you're a car manufacturer like Nissan here in Japan, and it has got cars that are driving all over the world. They may not want to put a data center in every country to collect the data from the car, so they may be want to use something for the cloud. So the cloud and software as a service is actually transforming how you run your applications and manage your applications. Okay. The next thing I will really kind of go back to sources and how Hortonworks has been transforming these big data technologies. So we started in 2011 as a company, and we built our software previously at Yahoo, and the founders went off, and we focused initially really on data at rest. And we looked at kind of batch applications, and that was the focus of Hadoop 1. Okay, but we realized while we were actually building this that we needed to move beyond things like MapReduce, and so we brought in Yarn, which was actually a compute engine, a compute operating system that worked very well with new engines. So we were able to then transform our batch systems into something that is interactive. So our SQL Hive engine became highly interactive because we moved away from the MapReduce paradigm to a Hive SQL that ran on tests. And eventually we moved into something that is LLAP. So we see this transformation that Hive brought in, the Yarn brought in. Yarn, in fact, even is bringing right in a way for you to run your TensorFlow applications right on top of this. So that transformation we started in 2013. You will see, I'll give you an example of that happening later today, later in my talk. The third realization that we came to was that data in motion was really critical. Initially, it was just a matter of ingesting the data, but we realized that this data was really first class and that we needed to look at the total picture over there, okay, and the total life cycle. Our next part of the journey that we started last year was focusing on connected data platforms. So we have a data platform, you have multiple clusters. You may have data in the edge on some of your clusters. You may have some of your clusters in the cloud. So what this meant over here was that we now need to connect up all these platforms up. And that was kind of the first step in this journey to being able to enable your first cloud offering, allowed you to create clusters. We had a partnership with Microsoft to have HD Insight on there. And that was kind of the first thing. Today, as we are moving on, you'll see the announcement that we made recently on data plane is kind of taking the next step. Now, not only is this connected platforms and be able to move data, but it's how do we manage it homogeneously. I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. The other thing that we are driving today is the data science success. So we are looking at, we have seen a partnership with IBM, be able to run the DSX stack. We can run now TensorFlow on the YARN clusters. You can run Spark application and Spark machine learning. So all of this is really what we are driving at today is this data science and machine learning explosion that is happening. Okay. So let's get back a little bit to this data in motion, data at rest. And what's very important to realize over here, as I mentioned, is that it's not just a question of your data in motion being ingested. You actually want to run streaming analytics on your data in motion. Okay? Clearly, you want to merge that with your data at rest. But you want to be able to run a query, for example, of data that is in the last 15 minutes sitting on Kafka, and do a join against that data with data that is sitting in Hive, for example. Okay? To be able to look at this data seamlessly as a single data plane. And so that is the kind of thing that is very, very critical in order to get full value of your data. And that's kind of what we have enabled with a lot of the streaming analytics platforms and the next generation platforms that are coming on. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the use case here. What I have shown here is a particular, let's say, a corporation, like let's say a car manufacturer that has some data on the cloud. For example, it is cars running, operating, and sending sensor data. And we may be doing telemetry on that sensor data. We may be observing faults that are occurring in that car. Okay, we may be uploading new machine models to those cars, and doing some analysis that happens on the cloud that tells you exactly what's happening in real time. Now, we may take a portion or all of the data and move it back to some of your main data centers, where you may want to say, you know what, I'm going to tie this back to my corporate manufacturing data. So you may be observing that while you are manufacturing a car, and you shipped a car that was manufactured in January, you might have observed certain glitches in your manufacturing plant. And you might now observe that those cars are actually observing a fault in real time there. And how do you tie that back to? That's kind of what really makes this very exciting, where all this data gets merged together and being able to do analytics on all of this. This can be applied to other things if you're in the finance industry, on cybersecurity threat, when we're doing some analysis in real time and some analysis against you all your data. Okay? So this is the kind of exciting part, and this is what you see on the screen is kind of a modern data architecture for a company. So as I mentioned, data science is really exploding right now, and it is something that helps you differentiate your company and to bring greater value to your customers because you extract value from the data. Okay. So again, as I mentioned, whether it is driving a car automatically, or whether it is fraud detection, or whether it is something else. Okay. And the kind of two parts over here really is that in order to do very well over here, you need massive amounts of data to be able to extract intelligence of that. And you also need a lot of flexible compute power. And so, interestingly enough, Hadoop and Hortonworks have been excellent at those two things, right? So we have abilities to create storage that is 50 to 250 petabytes in single clusters. okay, cheaper than any other manufacturer of storage out there. And then we also have a way for you to scale the storage, but also to scale the compute with that. And we've been doing that, so you can buy off-the-shelf servers to do that. And the interesting thing is that we also now with Yarn being able to bring things like able to run TensorFlow, to be able to schedule on GPUs, which are all the modern tools you need in order to manage those resources for the kind of compute that you need in machine learning, okay? And the center of this needs to be really the right tool sets, okay? So we let you run Spark, we let you run machine learning there. We have a partnership with IBM, and we let you run the IBM tool set on this. Okay, we let you, we can run with Yarn, TensorFlow and Docker applications on top of this. So really at the center, the two strengths that we had, we really now have a platform to be able to take the best of breeds of the tools and run them on there. And we're clearly going to see these tools that expand over time. Okay, the innovation in the tool set is going to happen in many places. But clearly, every vendor that is building this tool set, whether it is an open source tool set or private vendor, is making sure that it actually runs on this really top-notch open source platform. Okay, because it is really the premier platform on which, if you're going to target something for machine learning, you're going to target this platform, you're not going to target some other proprietary platform. So the work that I kind of mentioned, multiple workloads, multiple kinds of data in motion, data address, different tiers of data. This is actually creating a new problem that needs to be addressed. And the problem that is that no longer your data is in one place. Your data is all over the place. Okay? Clearly, there's obvious problem of replicating, but is how do you manage this? How do you discover it? How do you make sure that your governance policies, how do you make sure that your security policies are uniformly managed across? How do you make sure that your security policies are simple, they're tag-based rather than individual file object-based access control listed? How do you manage all this in a uniform? So this is a new set of problems it has created. And we recently announced, just a few weeks ago, this data frame service and platform. And really what it does, it lets you do this overall deployment. You move to the cloud. It's offering the second generation of our cloud deployment on AWS and on Azure. It addresses that you have a comprehensive management of the regulation, that you don't create silos of your data, okay, and it simplifies your data asset management, okay, and it's built in such a way that we can bring in additional new services over time as the market evolves in this space. Okay, so as part of this data plane, we offer, data source integration, a catalog that can be browsed, security controls, and as we have a data lifecycle manager which can look at the data, when does data need to be deleted, when does data need to be copied. As data is copied, it copies all the policies automatically, okay, across all your data sets. Okay, make sure that you are providing that uniformly. There's a data steward service where you can actually discover the data. You can look at snapshots of the data on each of your clusters. In fact, examine certain portions of your data to see what is the range of certain columns in those things, and then actually run a service on each of those clusters, for example, on your data lakes in a deep way in order to get a deeper application. Okay, so this is something that we have announced, and just around that time, as we were building this with a partnership with IBM, and also we have incorporated this into this platform. So I'll be talking a little bit more about this. You've seen an announcement from in the journal session this afternoon. Okay. So let me kind of switch back to kind of the source of Hortonworks that we started with this Hadoop in Apache. And so as at this time we are close to releasing a new version of Hadoop core. So right now in Apache we are moving towards releasing Apache Hadoop 3. There's a lot of improvements, and you will see this that our beta coming in January, February in 2018 will have this new Apache Hadoop 3. It has a bunch of stuff in very useful features in there. Storage optimization centered around erasure codes instead of free replicas. improvements in utilization of your resources. We focus on optimizing for long-running services, a number of very significant schedule enhancements. We have got improved isolation using Linux containers, support for Docker. There's a new user interface on Yarn to be able to have a very deep look at what's happening in your cluster and your resources, and take a perspective whether you're looking at it from a user perspective, a job perspective, or whether you're looking from a node or resource perspective. There's a whole bunch of additional code that is coming from the community. So there's a number of new minor features and improvements in which we call trunk, and that has all been incorporated in this. There's a new JDK 8 that we input and new versions of libraries. So you're going to see a lot of these improvements. Okay, and this is kind of the magic of open source. I'm only talking here in the context of the core of Hadoop, HDFS, and Yarn. Clearly, this is happening for Hive and Spark and everywhere else. Okay. So the release timeline is that we've done the Alpha 1 last year, Alpha 2 and Alpha 3 have been completed, okay, and then the beta is coming in this month, and in Q4 the GA. So we are waiting for that GA to happen so that we Hortonworks can release our own, do further testing of the entire stack and provide an integrated new stable environment. So we're planning to do beta early next year. And so you'll see an announcement on that. And the exciting thing about something like this is, I'll give you an example of what we do every day at Hortonworks, but this is what, interestingly, our customers can do. So what you have here is a Yarn cluster, and you'll be running some mapping, use Spark, LLAP application the traditional way. You've been doing this for many years, okay? And now what changes because of this long-running, Yarn's ability to run long-running services and improvements we made, you might say, you know what, I have a Docker application, it's got really nothing to do with Hadoop, but I want to access some of the data, maybe potentially, and so I can run a TensorFlow application on top of here. I don't need to go and provision a new cluster. You can just use your existing Hadoop cluster and run some of this, okay? So that's kind of one of the exciting things, and those kind of applications be possible. You could go and run your data. You might be running a data ingestion service. You could run that over there, okay, and do things like that. The other exciting thing, of course, is that you might decide that you want to run Yarn on top of Yarn. So you want to run Hadoop on top of Hadoop, and we do this every day. So all of our testing used to happen. We used to create mini Hadoop clusters on the cloud vendors, okay, either AWS or Microsoft, and or we used to have a mini cloud with OpenStack, and either this was expensive or very painful. Now we run all of this on Yarn. So we now have about 150 to 200 node base Yarn cluster, on top of which we create, tens to close to 100 mini clusters that runs Yarn and Hadoop on top of it. And so this is all. You may not want to do this, or you may just want to run one development, but I'm just trying to show you this recursion. It's telling you how flexible this platform has become to do things that one might not have imagined doing a while ago, right? Whether it is this testing and recursion of running things, or whether it's new applications and TensorFlow. So this has become an extremely, extremely powerful platform. And this is only possible because of the openness that we run with. We started this company on a foundation of openness back in 2011, and we believe that the innovation comes not just from us, innovation comes from the community, and so we found large users like Facebook and eBay and PayPal and Yahoo Japan. They all started to say, hey, this is a great platform because there's no platform out there that can even solve the problem. And by the way, it's an open platform, so they could improve on it. Okay, and we see the innovation coming from these companies. So, for example, Erasure Code was something that Yahoo Japan has really contributed and helped us. Okay, so the innovation has also come from a whole bunch of very small companies also. Okay, and the other part of this whole innovation and open source that has helped us is that people are willing to partner with us because they see that this platform is open. Okay, there is no lock-in. There's no lock-in for you, the vendor, but there is, safe to partner with us because if the partnership doesn't go well, you can move somewhere else. That's why you as a customer, you buy Hadoop from us and you're maybe unhappy with Hortonworks, you can go somewhere else. You're not locking. It's the same open source platform. the partners also feel comfortable. And that's kind of what resulted in a recent partnership with IBM. Okay, so that's kind of the innovation that's only possible because of open source. And there's a number of technologies. For example, we recently did, the last 2 years ago, we did NiFi, and that team, in fact, they joined Hortonworks. Okay, but that innovation came from outside innovation in Stone. Number of these technologies that have happened, Theory Spark is another one of those. And so this, we believe, is an excellent platform. Okay, we continue to maintain our spirit of open source, and we're moving forward with this. Okay, so I'm kind of coming close to the time. Okay, and so this is kind of the end. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending this. As I mentioned, I have a talk later in the afternoon. We have 2 additional talks on cybersecurity and general manufacturing that we told you. So the 2 other sessions from Hortonworks, and then we have other partner sessions. Thank you very much, and I hope you find this conference very, very useful.